Hello, everyone. Welcome. Still getting situated here. That's what y'all hear. My chair squeaking against the other chair. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday, and you are just in time for this episode of Tuesdays with Tequita. I am your host, Tequita C. Bryce, spiritual development coach. I help women of faith explore, develop, and apply spiritual strategies to every area of their lives in order to grow in Christ. I am having a fabulous Tuesday. As always, I pray that you are. I pray that your week has been prosperous and that the blessings of the Lord are making you rich and adding no sorrow to your lives. This year, we're talking about spiritual disciplines. This month in particular, we're talking about worship. And as this is the last Tuesday of the month, the last opportunity for me to teach you a little bit about worship. Today's subject then is going to be the benefits of worship. I was like, okay, I asked my husband, I said, honey, I need you to help me. I need to transition because we've talked about what worship is. That was the first week. And then we talked about why we worship. And then we talked about how we worship. So I just wanted to transition into something a little bit different that would give you some more information about worship in the context of the benefits of it. Because a lot of times people ask us, why do we do certain things? And we need to have an answer for our witness. And not just because it makes us feel good, and not just because it's something that we've been doing since we were a child, and not because it's something that we've done because our parents did it. Why do we worship? So again, I hope that this study has been beneficial to you and that you've gotten some value out of it in some way. Always, I want you to like, comment, and share this post so that we can continue to grow together. Okay, so let's get into it today. We're going to talk about the benefits of worship, and a benefit is just something added, something that gives you an edge over something else. So the benefits of worship, I want to talk about it in the context of three. Worship gets our focus on God. That's number one. Number two, worship increases our understanding of God. And number three, worship helps build our confidence in God. Again, worship keeps our focus on God. It increases our understanding of God, and it helps us build our confidence in God. And why is this important? Let's talk about our focus. I'm going to go ahead and take a deep breath first. We've become such a narcissistic society that our focus is so much on self. Technology has not served us well in that vein because it continues to be the device or what pulls our focus away and our attention away from God. So I'll give you an example. And this is something that I see all of the time. Have you ever posted something on social media? Just say you post, today has been a particularly trying day. And then you go on to explain why your day was trying. Instead of people focusing on what you've said about your day being trying and giving you input about your post, about your day being trying, they immediately internalize and they immediately post something about themselves on your post. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to identify with people. However, if all of your posts are like that, go back and look. See what kind of supportive person you are. If all of your posts that you comment on people's stuff is about you, then that's something that we might need to look at. Because again, we focus so much on ourselves more often than not that sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. When someone is talking about themselves, we need to really hone in and give them that undivided attention and speak to what they're speaking about before we make it all about us. So in this context, we're talking about God. Okay, worship gets our focus on God. One of the tools that we use in the African American church is what we call now praise and worship. And in that time and in that space of praise and worship, We sing songs, we, do all of the aspects of worship. And I didn't talk about those, but I may talk about those in our group. So if you haven't taken the time to join the Facebook group Excellence University, you definitely want to do that, because there are all these wonderful words that describe worship and what they mean. Like Shabbat means to yell and scream, or, Zamar, and, all that kind of stuff. So when we're in the worship experience, that is our private time to be able to worship and adore God for who he is. We sing worship songs to him. We empty our hearts. And that's the most important part about focus. It's in that moment that we can empty our hearts and our souls to the only one that can do anything about everything about us. Okay? Can I say that again? We empty our hearts to the only one that can do anything about everything that concerns us. So I am so protective of that worship experience and that worship time. Now, church or the community, the fellowship time is not the only time that you should be getting that worship in. You should be allotting some time in your own daily routine to get that worship in. A lot of times, for those of us who are challenged with time, a lot of times that worship time is in the morning, on our morning drive to work. Sometimes it's on the evening drive from home. Sometimes it's at lunchtime. But whatever time you can carve out to do that is so important, because the worship puts our focus on God. And it's something that I love. Dr. Anita Phillips said a couple weeks ago. She said that a lot of times we have issues with focusing on God because something that has happened has triggered a traumatic event that has happened in our lives. And now we're focused on how we feel about it. And it's bringing back up those feelings because we haven't dealt with that mental health part of it. But again, when we're not whole, when we're not one, when we're not complete, we're fragmented, it's very difficult to bring ourselves in. I don't know about you, but my worship leader always says, bring yourselves in, bring your minds in, bring your hearts in, because I don't know about you, but I've even been guilty that I've been standing there with intent to worship, eyes closed, and my mind is wandering. Wandering about what? Just some insignificant thing. And that is the enemy's tactic. His tactic is at all times to kill, steal, and destroy our focus on who is most important. What we're dealing with in the worship experience in our lives is not important. What we're experiencing in our lives in that moment is not important, because God is the greatest power. Okay. And there is nothing too hard for him. There is nothing that is impossible with him. And so we need that focus to continually be on him so that he understands that we put him first. Because if we don't put him first and we put everything else above him, then we've said to him that we're making our problems greater than you. When we can't focus on him, whatever it is that's getting our focus and our attention at that time and at that moment, we're telling God, this is more important than you. Do you want to tell God that something else is more important than him? I don't think so. So we always want to make sure that our focus and, that we're focused and we're concentrated on him. And a little aside, Isaiah 29 talks about the fact that the children of Israel, when they went to worship God, God wasn't pleased with their worship. And he made a statement that, basically they look great. They got all the movements, they got all the garb, but their hearts are far from me. And so when our focus is in the right place, then our heart and our mind is on one accord. Everything about us is in synergy, and we're giving God that focus that he so rightly deserves. So that's the first thing. Worship gets our focus on God. We're talking about the benefits of worship. And I put these, I just want to make sure that I put them in. Ah, yeah, there it is. So here we go. Benefits of worship. That's what we're talking about. So first, worship gets our focus on God. So, okay, let's move into number 2. Worship increases our understanding of God. So this part right here blew my mind. And you guys know that I get so excited when I'm studying the Word of God. So let's look at what the word understanding actually means. So let's go to 1 Kings 3. Specifically verse number 9. And in 1 Kings 3, Solomon is being promoted to kingship. And God is asking him, what do you want from me? And I mean, I love this discourse because that's really what happens when you worship. When you worship and you create an atmosphere for God to come down and sit in, He's asking you at that moment, what do you need me to do? What do you need of me? And so this is pretty much what's going on in this discourse. And Solomon knows that he's getting ready to be king, and he's asking God what he thinks is an important attribute as someone who's being promoted to be king. He said, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this, thy so great a people? And so I love the fact that, let's look at this word for understanding. It means to hear intelligently. Okay. It gives an implication of obedience. This is what Solomon had in mind when he was asking God for understanding. He had intelligence in mind. He had obedience in mind. He had discerning in mind. So the thing, though, that I love about God is that he understands that we are so limited in our ability to communicate with him that sometimes we need a little assistance. But because he knows our heart, because he knows what we really mean when we don't really get it out like we want it to come out, let's go down to verse number 11. And God said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and has not asked for thyself long life, neither has asked riches for thyself, nor has asked the life of thine enemies, but hath asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Now get this, I just read to you verse number 9 and what that word understanding meant. This word understanding has a totally different meaning. Let's look at it. It means to separate mentally, to distinguish, to attend diligently, to discern, be informed, to have intelligence. Okay? So the thing that I love about God is I see him listening to Solomon and saying, the best way that you could articulate what you asked me for was even your limited understanding of what understanding actually means. And he answered Solomon's prayer more than he could ever ask for. He just asked to hear intelligently. And God was like, oh no, I'm not just going to allow you to hear intelligently. I'm going to allow you to mentally separate and to distinguish every situation that comes before you. I just thought that was so awesome because I had never looked at it that way before. In Solomon's limited understanding of what understanding even meant, God did exceeding abundantly above all that Solomon asked or even thought, because he was even limited in his thought process to even ask God for what he wanted. So worship increases our understanding of God. When we worship him, he opens up our understanding of him. He opens up our mental capacity. He gives us wisdom. He allows us to hear him intelligently, which is something that we desperately need in this time and in this hour. We need to be able to hear from God intelligently and be in a place where we can separate the things that are going on in our minds and give people an answer that's going to direct them back to God. So worship, again, it increases our understanding of God. And I love that I talked to you last week a little bit about how God wants us to worship him in spirit and in truth. And I talked about the fact that we can't even worship him correctly if we don't have his mind. That's what the word spirit means. It means the persona, the embodiment of the mind of Christ. If we don't even have that, we can't worship him correctly. If we don't have truth, that word truth meant non-concealed. And I'm going back to that because I really want to reiterate, because again, a lot of us are worshiping God and we're like, we're like the children of Israel that God is talking about in Isaiah. We think that our worship is effective. And he's basically saying that I'm not receiving it because you're not doing it out of a pure heart. You don't really understand the mechanics of how to do this to the point that I want it done. Because a lot of times we just give God what we think we want him to have. And he's like, no, that's not how I want it. He was very specific. I talked about that as well. He was very specific in how he wanted to be worshiped. He's very specific. He's a specific God because your needs are specific. You don't want him to heal you. You want to be completely whole. You don't want him just to take care of the things that you know about. You want him to take care of the things that you don't know about as well. So that is all encompassed in our ability to get an understanding when we worship God. I thought that was just so amazing. And you guys know I'm trying to stay calm because, again, studying this word gets me so excited because there's nothing like it. The words that I speak, he said, are spirit, they're my mind, and they are life. They are Zoe, they are life. They're your life. The life that you think you want is in the word. And if you get in the word, then you'll have the life that you've always wanted to have. That's a whole different subject, so I'm going to get off of that. So let's go down to the last point where we're talking about worship helps build your confidence in God. Now, this is something else that I like because, again, I talked about focus in the first part, and we're so focused on ourselves because of, the society that we've become that we really can't get it together. But we also feel like we're self-sufficient in many ways when without God, we just we're absolutely nothing. He can just not think about us and we wouldn't even wake up. That's how insignificant we really are, but we think more highly of ourselves a lot of the time than we actually should. So you have to be careful with all this self stuff, self-worth, self-confidence, self-ease, too much attention on you is not good. So you have to make sure you have that balance. So let's look at Exodus 15, verse number 2. And we're talking about worship building our confidence in God. The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation, my father's God, and I will exalt him. I wanted to read the Message version because that kind of hones in on the part that I'm talking about confidence. And I had so many definitions of what confidence actually is. I want to go back and talk about focus because the definition of focus is the center of interest or activity. So I didn't want to forget to share that. The definition for focus is the center of interest or activity. So when we go back to that first point, we always want God to be the center and the focus. What did I say? The center of our interest or our activity. So confidence, we have confidence in everything. We have confidence in our jobs. We have confidence that our car is going to take us from point A to point B. We have confidence, that we're going to get our paycheck regularly. It's going to be direct deposited without problem. We have confidence in a whole lot of stuff, but how much confidence do we have in God? Think about that. Ask yourself that. How much confidence do I have in God? And I think that word confidence is like a defining word for us as believers, because we are the church. The building is not the church. I am the church. And because we really don't have this to the point where we're sharing it enough or even understanding it enough that the world can get an understanding, that's a place where we're falling short. And so I wanted to talk about David, because I love in, let's see, is that 1 Samuel? Psalms 118:8. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. That word confidence means refuge, trust, hope. Proverbs 25:19. Let's get that. Proverbs 25:19 says, confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a broken tooth and a foot out of joint. That word, confidence, means a refuge. It means security. It means assurance. Okay? So again, confidence, Psalm 118:8. It's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. And we put confidence in man on a daily basis when he is neither the creator. We have creative ability, okay? Creative ability, but we are not the creator. And so to put confidence in something that is not infinite is a danger to our spiritual walk. And so David, in 1 Samuel, I think it's 1 Samuel 17, talks about the story of him defeating Goliath. And a lot of people say David defeated Goliath with his he defeated Goliath with his sling and his stones. I submit to you that David defeated Goliath with his confidence. Why do I say that? Let's look at it. 1 Samuel 17. So what's going on is Goliath is bragging. He's mouthing off. He is just being so disrespectful. And I don't know about you, or I don't know if you've been in any situations where this type of thing was going on. What do you do when someone is being disrespectful? And it gets to the point where for you, it's boiling over and it's reached here and then it gets here and you've had all you can stand. Papa used to say, what is it? I can't stands no more. I stands all I can stands and I can't stands no more. I know I'm dating myself, but anyway, this is what's going on in this narrative in 1 Samuel 17. David is going down to bring his brothers some lunch. Okay. That was what David was getting ready to do. He was going down to bring his brothers some lunch. And then he hears Goliath defying God, and he just keeps doing it. And for David, it's boiling over. It's boiling over. And he's asking, the people, do you guys hear this? Do you hear what this uncircumcised Philistine is saying? He's defying the armies of our God. I mean, he was livid. And like, what are you guys going to do about it? How are you just, standing here listening to him? I mean, that is how he felt. He was just beside himself with that. And he wanted to do something about it. So let's look at it. 25 says, and the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that has come up surely to defy Israel? Is he come up? And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that kills this Philistine and taketh away the reproach from Israel? You see what his focus was on? His focus wasn't on the spoil. His focus was on taking away the reproach from Israel. For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? I mean, he was livid. Like, how dare you? And he had that much confidence in God. Again, the rest of that story you guys may be familiar with. Saul wanted him to wear his armor. He was like, dude, I can't wear this armor because I haven't proved it yet. You know, that means I haven't tried it. I haven't used it. So I don't think it's going to work for me. And I don't want to fall flat on my face because I'm using something that's not familiar. I think I'm going to stick with what I know. And that's significant for more than one reason. It wasn't just the fact that he was, going or sticking with what he knew as far as his sling, and his stones. He was sticking with what he knew because of his confidence in God. He was like, I'm going to stick with the person that I know that has shown up for me all this time. All the time that I've been tending the sheep, I've encountered lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And I've defeated every single last one of them because God has been on my side. And he had that much confidence. Again, he had that much assurance. He had refuge. He had trust. He had hope. He had security in God. And as believers, we have to have that kind of security and confidence in God. Because if we have that kind of confidence in him, then we can change nations. We can change worlds. We can change cities. We can change circumstances simply because we are confident. Being confident in this one thing, he that has begun a good work in you shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. So you have to have that trust in him without doubting that he can do everything but fail. They used to sing this song, he's never failed me yet. He's never failed me yet. Jesus Christ never failed me yet. I didn't like that part because for me, the yet implied that you were waiting for him to do it. So when I say it, I say he's never failed me. He's never failed me. Everywhere I go, I want the world to know Jesus Christ has never failed me because I know he won't. It's not in his character to fail me. So when we possess that kind of confidence in God, again, we can change nations. We can set the world on fire. And that's where we need to get back to, ladies and gentlemen. We need our worship to be in such a place where our confidence is in God and what he can do. I've had so many wonderful testimonies. I wanted to share one with you. A young lady was in prayer and we were believing God that her husband would get a job, and he did. I mean, he had no employment for about 4 months, and we were praying and believing God and interceding, and he got something, and she was just so ecstatic because when we're in a place where we're waiting on God, that waiting process can be sometimes a little challenging for us. And sometimes we just need a little confidence. We need somebody that has a little bit more confidence than we do to say, keep it right there. Don't move to the left. Don't move to the right. I know you may not think you're seeing something, okay? But every prayer that you pray is not hitting a brick wall. There is nothing void about your petition with God. He hears everything that you're saying, and he's going to answer you in due time. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall, it is a promise, you shall reap if you faint not. Okay, guys, I've run over my time. That's all I have for you today. I hope you will share this, the benefits of worship. Again, worship gets our focus on God. It increases our understanding of God because, again, we have to understand him just to even worship him correctly. And it helps build our confidence in God. And we need confidence in him to be able to worship him and to change nations and to set our cities on fire and to change our own internal situations, because that confidence is assurance that God is going to do it. It squelches any kind of doubt that we have. Even if we don't see it right now, we know with assurance that it's going to happen, because he says, I'm not a man that I should lie, neither the son of man that I should repent. If I spoke it, shall I not do it? If I said it, shall I not bring it to pass? That is his MO. He is a prayer answering God. He is a follow through kind of God. We can have trust in him. We can have confidence in him all day long. We can cash him in. Okay. That's the check that we can always take to the bank, and it's going to always cash it. We're going to always get the rewards back from it. Okay, guys, have a fabulous Tuesday. And I want you to remember, everything that you're going through right now, God knows it. He's ordained it all. He understands it all better than you do. Okay. Again, be not weary in well doing. Know that all things are working together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are the called according to his purpose. You're the called. Okay. So everything that you're going through is working out for your good. It may not feel good at the moment, but I promise you it's working for your good. And Job said it best. And when I have been tried, at the end of the day, when this is all over and said and done, I shall come forth as pure gold, because we want to make sure that we're growing to gold. Grow to gold this week, guys. That's all I have for you. Have a fabulous Tuesday, and I'll see you next week.